So ever since influencers started thinking they could become boxers, the world of boxing itself has become one of the biggest jokes in the history of combat sports. The only thing worse than an influencer boxing are the actual boxers, MMA guys, whatever, coming out of retirement after who knows how long just to get knocked out in the first round for a fat paycheck. I'm looking at you, Liddell. But now after seeing how much they could make, regardless if the fights they put on are entertaining or not, people like KSI and Aiden Ross are oversaturating the sport, not even caring about the damage they're doing. Like at first when it was just influencer versus influencer and the real boxers were just special guests and or commentators, that was fine. These guys essentially had their own little corner of the boxing world to play around in, while the actual athletes try to rank up and get whatever world title they're after without having to worry about some dude named Plantation Soup calling them out, making their chase for the belt that much longer. But unfortunately, after how many people tuned in to see both Jake Paul and KSI fight Tommy Fury and Joe Fournier respectfully, that was the beginning of the end for boxing as we knew it. Like after KSI's fight with Fournier, he then went up against Tommy Fury. On the same card, Logan Paul went up against Dylan Dennis. And then not even a year later, he had Paige Van Zandt going up against some OnlyFans girl. Yeah, I know Paige is on OnlyFans now, but the other girl is known for being on OnlyFans. That's like having someone who's known for having a Grindr account go up against LeBron James in a one-on-one. And don't even get me started on Tony Ferguson versus Salt Shaker or whatever the fuck. I get that this was his first win in a long time, but being that happy after a win against Salt Poppy is kinda pathetic. He went from losing to people like Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Nate Diaz, to celebrating a win against someone whose real name we don't even know, and not in a cool way like Lord, in a lame way like Seal. His name is actually Seal. But you guys see what I mean when I say they care more about the fighters involved rather than how exciting the fight is going to be. Tony could have been 1,000 years old and he still would have beat up Salt Mommy. Now put Salt Bae and Salt Poppy in a ring together and watch the money start raining in.
I make it right, 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 I make it.
And that was just about KSI's Misfit Productions. Like I said, Aiden Ross puts on his own boxing events under his company, Brand Risk. And these people are even less of an influencer than the people KSI gets to fight. Like honestly, tell me who you recognize on this fight card other than the legend Super Hot Fire. Not putting him on the main card is actually insulting.
Sweet dollar tea from McDonald's.
Yep.
I drink that.
And then I guess XQC and DDG who are just there for some reason. But like other than those people, who can you name on here? No one, right? And if you do, they're probably from some niche group of streamers that are friends with the friends of Aiden Ross, which is how they got on this card. But not even that. The main fight was against some guy named Oblivion and that wannabe NBA player Julian Newman. And the event before that was even more random. Yeah, he had some TikTokers on there like Hood Meals and Lalo, but the main card was between these guys named Melt and Rod. Like this should have said shit versus butt. And why the fuck does Aiden Ross put his face at the center of each promotion? It says Aiden Ross presents. We didn't think that meant the other Aiden Ross that's popular online. Imagine if Dana White did that. Like with how bad these already are, imagine just this right in front of everything. Like the cards Aiden Ross puts on are actually insane and not in a good way. And he knows how unpredictable these cards could be. Like there's no way you can tell who is going to win by just looking at who's fighting, since both of them have little to no fighting experience. And because of that, he has to add some incentive to get people to watch the whole thing. And the way he does that is by offering a prize for the perfect parlay. Must wager $100 minimum on an individual Brand Risk 010 parlay, including all 11 fights, and go 11 for 11. If you pick the perfect parlay, you will get a share of the $30,000 grand prize split between all perfect parlay winners. So even if you somehow manage to get all 11 for 11 fights correct, which is insane in itself, you will only get a share of a $30,000 grand prize. Do you understand how many people make these parlays every time just to lose? This should be like the lottery, and if someone doesn't win the first time, all the money gets saved for the second fight, and if someone doesn't win, it goes on and so on. But no, this dude is making you bet $100 on some people named Chain Snatcher. You might as well take a shit on that $100. Actually, you know what? It'd still be useful after that. You might as well just burn the $100. Now, those promotions alone take up like 40% of what's ruining boxing. The other 60% goes to Jake Paul alone. You guys obviously know about Jake Paul and his boxing journey and how pathetic it is compared to other boxers trying to make a name for themselves. Like any normal boxing fan can see that beating Mike Tyson at the age of 60 means absolutely nothing for your boxing career. Beating 4 retired MMA fighters does nothing for your boxing career. Losing to Tommy Fury and then not fighting anyone that matters until this most recent fight with Gervonta Davis, who isn't even in your weight class, does do something, but it's not good. Like, there is something genuinely wrong with Jake Paul's brain to where it makes him think that this makes him a great boxer. He can box, but it wasn't like he was this kid who got seen hitting the bag and his dad was like, "Kid's got the stuff." No, he used his money to quote unquote fake his way into being ranked. And not just ranked, he's now in the top 10, being ranked number 9 in the US. Ranking Jake Paul in the top 10 after the fights he's had is actually a disgrace to everyone who's ever put on the gloves. Yeah, I'll give him props for the Julio fight and the 2 other fights against the people who are somewhat current boxers, but only having 3 out of your 13 fights against actual opponents shouldn't get you ranked that high. Like, the boxing ranking system is so confusing because Jake Paul is ranked in the top 10, but is only ranked 2 stars. Julio is ranked 1.5. The fact that Jake Paul hasn't beaten anyone in the 20 spots below him shows that boxing is a joke. Now, remember when I said it was like a 60-40 split between Jake Paul and then Aiden Ross and KSI? Well, now it's more like a 50-50 split after this new announcement. So Misfit Boxing just announced that Andrew Tate will be making his boxing debut against too hot to handle star Chase Demure. Now, aside from the fight, giving Andrew Tate a platform to speak and cause drama is the worst thing anyone can do. I get that you British chaps gotta stick together, but how about you make an exception for someone who was indicted for rape, human trafficking, and forming an organized crime group to sexually exploit women? Now, this might just be me, but that's not the kind of guy I think we should have people cheering for. That's just me. And then God forbid he wins and wants to come back and do this again, and then they make it an annual thing where they have this rapist headline this event every year. Nobody but someone with a huge fucking forehead would want that. And out of all the people you could have had Andrew Tate fight, you pick someone who is known more for being a reality star than for their boxing? Like, the guy Andrew Tate's boxing has a record of 4-1-2 and already has a belt for some reason. Jake Paul has been crying for a belt, and this guy gets a belt after going 4-1-2 while being ranked half a star? This fight is literally going to be
superstar versus half a star.
Only the superstar was forming an organized crime group to sexually exploit women. Like, the Crawford and Canelo fight should have been way bigger than it was, but right after that, everyone started talking about Jake Paul fighting Gervonta Davis, and it's like, guys, this actually meant something. Who cares about what Jake Paul's doing? He has proven to us for almost 6 years now that he is only going to box who he says he wants to box. And if someone his size or bigger calls him out, he'll ignore them because he knows that if he goes up against some actual competition, he would lose. You guys ever seen that show Pros vs. Joes? It was a show about these retired professional athletes going up against people like you and me in their respective sports just to be like, see, it's not that easy. That's basically what Jake Paul is doing. He's calling out these people with little to no experience in the ring while this dude has been spending the last 5 years training. And it's not like MMA where you have to know if this guy's gonna wrestle or throw some head kicks. Boxing is essentially just throwing punches and dodging them. And of course, when you're non-stop training year-round, you're going to be better than the guy who started training 6 months before the fight, whereas you've been preparing for 6 years straight. Like, Gervonta Davis, I'm hoping is going to put up a good fight, but like, how many times have all of us said that about the guy fighting Jake Paul, only for them to show us that they should have never gotten in the ring in the first place? Almost all of them. But yeah, guys, at this rate, it's going to take people 3 times as long just to get a belt, with all these amateurs thinking that they can beat the best of them after beating someone named Florida Joker, or Country Boot Gang, or Perneverlawn Shepherd. That one actually might be his real name. That one's not a nickname. That one's his real name. But you get it. It's just poopy boxing everywhere. Until tomorrow. Peace.